Summer League low-key is like a box of chocolates because you never know what you're going to get. But for the Bucks and their season opener for Summer League, they got a game winner. Who stood out? Who to keep an eye on? Plus, Doc Rivers speaks, and what did he reveal about what the upcoming Bucks season could be like? We'll talk about it on today's episode of Locked On Bucks.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What it do? Welcome to Locked On Bucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Camille Davis, NBA analyst with the Locked On Network, plus co-host of the Technical Foul podcast. Joining me is Frank Madden, longtime voice of the pod and founder of BrewHoop.com. We truly do appreciate you for tuning in and making Locked On Bucks your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, as well as on YouTube. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Frank, before we started recording, I made the remark of the Bucks have finally won a Summer League game after going 0-5 yesterday. I want to table set the conversation, but we got a game-winning 3 from Bouyea to end the game. We have to start there, Frank, because Bucks winning in the summertime? Like, what is this?
I mean, last year's Summer League team was one of the most offensive, not like offensive basketball, but offensive to our taste basketball performances that I think I've ever seen. They were horrendous and just depressing all around. Chris Livingston, one of the few bright spots of last year's Summer League team, and even being waived last week, which was not surprising, just given kind of the lack of macro progress and kind of just like how he would fit in the roster. But shout out to Chris Livingston. He was probably the Bucks' best player tonight. And it was maybe not, I mean, it was entertaining since we got that shot at the end, but what do you really want out of Summer League? Well, you want the guys that you're most invested in from, a draft perspective to show out and show you flashes of stuff. And looking at the Bucks draft picks that were and roster players that were available tonight, they were not the highlight of tonight. I don't know that we can string together 2 sentences of like what our dear Bouyea Markovic did. He was completely MIA and just, we'll call this a mulligan, I guess, see what happens next time. Things just look too fast, too physical for him. Tyler Smith also did hit a 3 in the fourth quarter, but really not the kind of impression I think that probably you'd hope from Tyler Smith, given he's also a young guy that, you hope there's some upside he can tap into. So it was like these more random guys. Obviously, Livingston's not a random guy, but I thought he acquitted himself well. Cormac Ryan,
Man,
found out who that guy was tonight.
Color me intrigued going forward about him.
Yeah, I mean, he was probably right there as far as the Bucks' best players tonight. Has a strong reputation as a shooter, and we saw it tonight. Capable shooting guard, stretch the floor. And I thought, Pete Nance also less so in the kind of late stages, but first 3 quarters. I think you saw, honestly, the kind of stuff we saw from him last year, especially year was maybe exaggerating it because we got a week of Pete Nance, but it was a totally adequate week, including probably most notably the last game of the season when he had some extended run. And he looked like that guy tonight, has kind of some competent, especially offensive skills that I think translate to real NBA basketball to an extent, and obviously translated today. And then obviously Jamaree Bouyea with the exclamation point on the win. But yeah, I don't know that we saw a lot of indications of that there's dudes in this kind of Vegas roster that are going to be, making any sort of impact with the big club this fall. But you never know, right? I mean, I thought Ryan Rollins looked generally really good. I guess he was on it last year too. I feel like it was 2 years.
What you said, Ryan Rollins, or
Ryan Rollins 2 years ago, I think, looked intriguing.
And last season too,
but wasn't amazing, right? And then he obviously became a real NBA contributor to the point we were all thrilled that he's was retained. So you never know exactly. You know, it's a weird environment for a number of reasons. So again, like, I will not say that Vegas is a marathon, not a sprint. It's like a 400-meter race, not a outright sprint. So, you know, there's at least a few more games to kind of take in here and kind of think about the body of work that these guys put through. But hey, it's almost NBA basketball, Camille. It's been a minute since we had that, and
Right. It's a little something.
Been a while since we washed out the taste of that last official Bucks game of the season, which I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, getting the win here does feel good, even though, you know, for me watching summer league games, it's not ultimately about who wins and who loses. Like, it's just watching the players and how they develop, who pops, who has flashes, who looks good and things of that sort. Like, even taking my notes during the game, they look far different than my notes during a normal NBA game. Like, summer league notes are more so player based, just notes about each different player. And Bouyea is one of the interesting ones because, like, early on, I thought he had a good start to the game, showed some things on defense as well. But then as the game was going on, you know, he's driving into a lot of bodies and he's missing these shots. And it was kind of like, I was like, man, you know, he don't ain't too many shots that he's not comfortable taking right now. Like, and it's summer leagues, that's the kind of environment that it is. And then to get the game winner from him was really fun. But I think outside of Chris Livingston, who one, I just have to say, looked stronger. Like, he looked like he was stronger than most of the other guys out there on the court. Had his 3-ball going for him a bit tonight as well. Shot 50% from 3 on the night. And that's been a little inconsistent for him from time to time. So seeing that in summer league was really good for me for Chris Livingston. Although he's out in the Bucks now, we know he is out here, you know, trying to audition, one could say, for other clubs. And who knows if the Bucks would even consider bringing him back with the strong summer league performance. But Cormac Ryan,
maybe that's who Andre Jackson Jr. is going to get waived for, right? Gotta get Chris Livingston back in the fold, man. Sorry, Chris, we should have picked you over Andre Jackson. I don't know if I'm ready to say that would be a good idea. I think I'd still roll the dice on Andre Jackson and his extremely up and sort of one-way version of basketball, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see kind of how that evolves.
Yeah, because Ajax in this game too, like early on, like he looked just a little unsteady at times. He got the game started with the corner 3. I think he only made 2 shots in the entire game. Both were threes.
Only
if I
took
remember
2
correctly.
shots. Yeah, like
two
first quarter and fourth quarter. Go figure.
And the one in the fourth quarter was like no hesitation from the wing 3. And I was like, oh, you ain't shot since the first quarter and you feel comfortable taking this shot right now in the fourth in crunch time. And he knocked it down. Awkward looking shot still, but knocked it down for the Bucks. But Ajax game was a bit up and down throughout, but I thought in the clutch for the Bucks tonight, which is really funny to say in a summer league game, but in the clutch for the Bucks, he made some winning plays, even like a big offensive rebound. I don't think the Bucks were able to convert off of it, but just some good energy down the stretch from him.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if we're being candid, the odds of us learning anything about Andre in, you know, year 3 of summer league, both because it's year 3 and has way more NBA experience than obviously the vast majority of the guys he's playing against, but also just his style of play. I feel like this is just a fundamentally bad environment for kind of figuring out like how his game is evolving in terms of how it's going to fit with a real NBA roster, because, you know, we saw it the last 2 years. Obviously last year he barely played because of the injury. But, you know, he's a guy who fundamentally, when he's on the floor in an NBA game, he's going to be the 5th option every time offensively. And he's going to be surrounded by guys who are, you know, much better, more talented, and can do things with the ball that he's not going to be asked to do. So he's able to, you know, be in a more complementary role and could just really focus on defense. And yeah, I mean, in Vegas, like, again, he doesn't have like a scalable game that way. I think when he was drafted, I think there was more hope that, you know, he would have some of that kind of secondary playmaking, kind of funky passing, you know, type of ability. And to me, that's honestly been kind of the biggest disappointment. Like, the most consistent thing he's done in the NBA is make 3-pointers, which is crazy to say.
Right.
But he hit like 38% his rookie year. I think he was right around, maybe even higher last year. Hits 2 of 2 tonight. But it just kind of goes to show, right? Like, if you're not going to be an on-ball guy, there is more to being a kind of contributing guy than just being able to hit like a wide open three, because nobody's really guarding him, even though he's done what he needs to do as a 3-point shooter, and that's like honestly the area he's least hesitant to shoot from, strangely, right? Like we've seen him like
around
take alley-oops, pass out of alley-oops, but he actually will. Seems like he's kind of programmed himself like, all right, I gotta look, I gotta take it, right, which is the right thing for him to do. So yeah, it's hard. I mean, he's not ever gonna. I mean, if you're not a threat to attack the rim or pull up a shot, like you can't run a pick and roll, so that's never really been an option for him. I think I'm a little torn on like kind of his role last year, because I think I've generally been let's say less optimistic about what he was contributing last year. People that listen to us know I've brought up kind of ad nauseum, right? Like the lineups with him were kind of always like, he was kind of the common thread in a lot of the worst lineups. He was like the only guy that Giannis was a negative on the floor with last year, which is a bad sign, but also not shocking, just given the fact that like the way he plays, like just isn't going to bring out the best in Giannis either, because he's obviously going to lead to floor congestion, and their teams are going to play off him inside the arc and outside the arc. So yeah, it's a hard environment in Vegas. And obviously then you add in just him having his guarantee date pushed back, and who knows kind of what that could portend for his future with the team. So again, I don't think, I know this kind of has been raised, like, is he like under the gun to show something in Vegas? Like, I don't know what he's going to show in Vegas that, is suddenly going to like make the Bucks think differently about anything. Because again, it's just not, I think, a good environment for that. But yeah, so he did some Ajax type stuff. And, I think probably the one thing I would say like would be really impressive if he showed like kind of just like the ability when he got the ball in the half court to just be decisive and attack the rim, and actually use that athleticism to just go from 20 feet out. Yeah, take like 1 or 2 dribbles and get to the rim and finish, right? Like you would think a guy with his athleticism, I mean, he can dribble the ball. It's not like he can't dribble or can't catch a basketball. But for some reason, it just doesn't really seem to have kind of that sort of natural feel for creating shots for himself. So it is what it is. But again, let's see what he does over the course of the week. Curious if he plays all week, or if they say at some point,
games for him.
Yeah, maybe they'll say at some point like, all right, we're good. Thanks for coming out. You can hang out and chill in Vegas the rest of the week, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that goes. But again, this is only one game down. So for the guys who didn't perform as well, there's a few more games for them to go. But that's the part I want to focus on next. It's like, what are things to keep an eye on? Maybe something didn't go well tonight, something that you want to see different on Saturday and or Sunday when they play again. So we'll look at some things to keep an eye on right after this. There is nothing like being able to head out to a game, to a concert, whatever it might be, with family or friends. And have you ever had the idea to do that at the very last minute? Because I know I have. Like, it can be game day sometimes, and then you're just sitting around like, you know what? I'd actually rather see this game in person than watching this on TV. And that's where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress, because with the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, maybe even invite more people to come along with you. Gametime makes all of that possible. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch. It's kind of like a procrastinator's dream. They've got incredible last minute deals, clear seat views, and the lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. Gametime has last minute tickets and zone deal for big savings, like 10% off exclusive zone deals for the FIFA Club World Cup matchups. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and go ahead and get you some tickets. Get you some tickets, y'all. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. things to keep an eye on, Frank. Like we mentioned, Ajax had an up and down performance, but just had a conversation about how his game is scalable and what it actually means for Summer League. Someone who I was very much looking forward to see play tonight was the Rook. Wanted to see what Markovic had in him, and as you mentioned, there wasn't much in this game to really go on. Like the passing touches were nice, but nothing really happened. It wasn't flashy. It was just decisive. I would give him that at the very least. But like just getting out physical. Like I was watching him get thrown around by guys like half his size at times. Not the greatest first go for him, but again, a lot more ball to play. Smith was another one, Tyler Smith. I did think he looked bigger going into the game. He got a few like offensive rebounds that I was kind of like, okay, nice to see you attacking the glass, but ultimately still left something to be desired. So I would love to see more for them two of them going forward. And also just a little disappointed because there was no Mark Sears in the game tonight. He was out with a calf strain. So a little disappointed that we didn't get to see him in this game.
Yeah, I mean, not that Tyler Smith is a guy that, the fan base is clamoring and having these high hopes for, that he's going to be like some huge kind of piece of the future part of the franchise. But it was interesting that they drafted, Bouyea, Markovic, given the type of player he is. I mean, his position is Tyler Smith's position.
Yeah.
Like what Tyler Smith does, spread the floor, hit threes, is pretty much like the MO that you would expect that what Bogey's going to have.
Unless you truly believe that Smith is going to be more of a 3 than a 4, but that feels, I don't know about the defense part for him with threes.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I feel like what we saw from him last year was, some ability to be kind of like a garbage man, hard hat guy around the basket. And he's got obviously like a really pretty stroke. Being a lefty never hurts in that regard. But certainly not like off the dribble game, right? Which,
right.
If you're gonna be 3 in the NBA, and this is also, I think, like something when we talk about Chris Livingston and like what sort of puts a limiter on his sort of upside. You got to be able to make threes, and you got to be able to like dribble a little bit and be at least like kind of a connector passer. You don't necessarily need to be like running pick and rolls or like be a big time playmaker. But I mean, I said it last year, right, with Taurean Prince and Livingston. I said Livingston should look at what Taurean Prince does and basically like try to. And again, this is going to be funny because like everybody looks at Taurean Prince like he's like horrible, but the guy led the NBA in catch and shoot threes last year. Like he was I think he was like 3rd in the league in 3-point shooting. I mean, he doesn't try to do a whole lot because he can't really easily put the ball on the deck, attack the rim, etc.
Although we did see him do it a lot towards
there was probably way too much. It seems like Giannis was way more confident in Taurean giving him a dribble handoff, going to the corner, and trying to then run like basically empty side pick and roll with him than really was there. And I think his pick and roll ball handler numbers were horrendous. But credit to Taurean. I mean, he shot the hell out of the ball all of last year, and even with that, like most of his lineups, like his on-off numbers were really not great, which I think does speak to the fact that like, being a good 3-point shooter is obviously like hugely valuable, especially on a team with Giannis. But if that's all you can do, like it does put a cap on how useful you can be. And again, I think there is an importance in terms of like being able to be a good decision maker, quick decision maker. Is really important. And so I think like for Chris Livingston, that's really important. I think for Tyler Smith, it's really important. Like you're not going to have time to dwell on the ball and size guys up and, yo-yo dribble and try to go one-on-one. Like it's going to be pretty much, catch the ball, keep it moving, take, one dribble, try to beat your guy if you think you can, and then make a quick pass if you can kind of get a second defender. I mean, that's the kind of stuff you got to do. And then of course, like dribble handoffs, given these are kind of like perimeter type big. So yeah, I mean, the mandate for them is limited. It's kind of narrow. And it's hard because even with Taurean Prince, like literally people wanted to drive him to the airport after he, basically led the NBA in 3-point percentage. Cause again, like that's kind of a limited thing. And defensively, obviously he was often put in spots where he was having to guard smaller guys, but again,
Not ideal.
that's kind of a Doc Rivers problem as much as it is a Torian Prince problem. So, so we'll see. But yeah, I mean, I'm not shocked that Bouyea. I mean, again, like just as you said, physically just did not
Just
look
outmatched.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting because it's like, I mean, he's 6'11", 200 pounds, pretty much. I think is what he's listed at. So not surprising. He's not going to put on 20 pounds of muscle, between now and Sunday. I mean, the Vegas buffets are impressive, but I don't think he's going to be able to manage that. So, so short of just another year of getting bigger, stronger, etc. I am curious to see, like, I'm sure there's a degree of just acclimation that probably for someone his age, I think he's turning 20. Is he turning 20 this? Did I hear? Is it this weekend or something? But
I think it's coming up. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's almost 20. He's still very thin, obviously. But also just, I mean, I just didn't, when he had the ball, like he had a couple turnovers, he kind of rushed his first shot. Honestly, when he hit the rim on his first shot, I was like, considered it a victory. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
Because like he got fouled early and he badly missed his first two free throws, like almost like banked both of them in, which, my guess is I think he was like a 75% free throw shooter last year in Serbia. So I kind of think that was probably a lot of like nerves and just like he was probably juiced up, trying to go to the rim and get his first points. So that had to wait. But yeah, I mean, unfortunate that really did not see a whole lot from him. And hopefully he has some moments because we didn't see any moments tonight. And certainly if this is like indicative of where he's at right now, then yeah, I mean, there's no point in giving him a roster spot.
At this point.
I think the roster spots are too important to filling out kind of the depth of this team. But it also would have been nicer if Tyler Smith had shown like, year 2, baby, like I'm ready to go. I'm ready to show you kind of how I've grown and be productive and, go do what Chris Livingston did a year ago. Right. And what he did tonight. But we didn't see that in this game from Tyler. Move on to the next one. Right. Like burn the videotape and hopefully next time you have a better outing. Because between the two of those guys, again, they're kind of competing, somewhat indirectly for maybe a shot to be that stretch 4 down the road. It'd be nice if one of them had some good moments in Vegas. Certainly tonight was nothing to write home about.
Yeah, something to keep an eye on with both of them. And like mentioned, next game for the Bucks is Saturday, and then they play again on Sunday. So it's going to come around quick for them.
Saturday and Sunday. Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking there was
Saturday and Sunday.
Okay.
It's going to be quick for them.
Man,
so.
if you, I hope everybody's ready for bad basketball. Get ready. Vegas is coming.
Man. Luckily, most of the Bucks are. Few of the Bucks are still too young to really enjoy Vegas at this age, but we did hear from Doc Rivers on the broadcast last year during Summer League when we heard Doc. He dropped some bombshells on us about Chris Middleton getting double ankle surgery. So as soon as I heard that Doc Rivers was coming up to speak on the broadcast, I was like, let me get these ears going because what is Doc going to say? So more on what he did reveal about the team coming up next. So when Doc Rivers joined the broadcast during the Summer League game, he said a lot of what I was hoping to hear. A lot of things that we've been talking about on the show here, about the direction we think that the Bucks are going in, the direction we think the Bucks need to go in. We heard Doc mention things like we needed to get younger. We need to play with more pace. Got to play faster. Defensively started to slow in the year, but kind of picked up in the second half of the year. And for this team, want to kind of pick up where they left off defensively. Talked about making a point guard Giannis more of a thing. And hearing Doc even go into that of like, it's not like I'm a genius and thought of it myself. It was more so, out of necessity. And then when I told the coaches, we should put the ball in Giannis's hands even more, they were surprised. And I tell Giannis and he's surprised, but he's the most dangerous guy on the team and no one's really pressuring Giannis full court. So if you're able to bring the ball up without pressure, you surround him with shooters, then good things can happen. Doc mentioned that he thinks that AJ Green and Gary Trent Jr. will have breakout seasons. And Kevin Porter Jr., he said, out of all of the guys, I think he's going to have the biggest jump. Mentioned how Kevin Porter Jr. listens really well, how during the second half of the year, he noticed that KPJ was actually becoming a point guard, driving and kicking instead of doing as much and one, not as much dancing. Said the biggest surprise is that he can defend a little bit too. Competitive guy, still got to work on it, but really likes what he sees from him. So a lot of what we heard, like I mentioned, summing all that up, is what we were hoping that the Bucks would be doing this season, which is why for people who were seeing what the Bucks did this offseason of bringing in a Miles Turner who fits Giannis beautifully as a front court mate, in addition to bringing back the guys mentioned, Gary Trent Jr., Kevin Porter Jr., talk about the role of AJ Green. People were looking like, well, how is this going to be different when we saw these guys last year? But the difference comes in how they'll be utilized throughout the entire course of a season rather than, a handful of games out of necessity down the stretch.
Yeah. Well, so first off, I'll say the thing when he was talking about like, making Giannis a point guard or whatever, and I was like, oh, like everybody was like thinking that's crazy. It's like
Jason Kidd did this years ago.
I mean, Larry Drew talked about it when Giannis was a rookie. Obviously, they didn't really like do it in a full-time capacity, but they talked about him like being kind of like a point guard, and then like basically his breakout that second half of year 3 basically came with him being the like playing like with the ball in his hands as a point guard. He had the triple doubles against Kobe, and really kind of gave the flashes of what we hoped that he was going to be. So that was like a little weird to me because it was like, no, like we always knew that he can do this. I mean, I think the inside of the comment about putting the ball in his hands, like teams don't pressure you, I think is a useful one. I remember making the comment actually about Ajax, and obviously that it's very different with him because people don't really pressure him because he's usually guarded by like the worst defender and like, whatever. But like, I do think it's an interesting sort of construct to think about, like, how do you kind of limit the way the other team is going to try to defend you? And with Giannis, it's interesting because I feel like when you have Giannis in that role, you're either playing really fast, which of course Doc mentioned, like pace was like the number one thing that they wanted to try to do more of this year, which is, like a classic head coach thing to say in July, right? Like nobody in July is saying like, oh, we got to play slower. Like we gotta become a half court grinded out team. Transition basketball, no thank you, right? Nobody's saying that in July. So we'll see. I think obviously with KPJ in particular and Giannis, like I think a lot, honestly, with like KPJ and Ryan Rollins, I think the way that those guys and Gary Trent, you think about like some of like the zone defense spells and things like that, like the turnover forcing, to me, that was like really the catalyst for the pace. Because with Giannis, like you're either playing fast because he's going downhill in transition and like collapsing the defense and being the greatest transition player in the history of the sport, or he's tired and he's walking the ball up, and then you're like slower than ever because he's literally walking the ball up and then he's probably passing to somebody else. So then he's not even going to get the ball like right. So that there it can become very slow and you can burn a lot of clock because Giannis, honestly, he
only knows one speed.
Well, yeah, he's either on or off.
And when he gets tired, you see it.
Yeah, exactly. Like he is like getting the ball over at 16 seconds on the shot clock. So, so we'll have to see kind of what that dynamic looks like. Obviously, I think it confirmed, as you said, a lot of what we were assuming, and honestly, a lot of probably what the pitch is to Giannis about why he should be patient with the team and the franchise, and again, like ESPN and people saying like, oh, Giannis is sitting here, like, what are the Bucks going to do to become a contender? It's like they're not going to become a contender like
this season, like not that quickly.
Like in the next month, is there some chance? I will never say John Horst is not capable of pulling the rabbit out of his hat using the 2031 first, the second round pick swap. Like, could he do something with Kuzma's contract to bring in a bigger name? It's possible. I'm sure he's trying to do something and figure out like, is there a play there, or with just Kuzma and Ajax or whatever, like is there some way that he can get a player that he thinks can increase the upside and potential of this team? So not questioning that at all, but the ability to do that is challenged, like so we'll see if he can do anything. I think I think a lot of Bucks fans have sort of like, begun to embrace conceptually the idea of like, well, it's probably going to be KPJ and Rollins as your point guards, and Gary Trent, AJ Green, and you hope that they can tap into kind of the magic that they had in that 8-game win streak at the end of the year with Giannis, and that having Miles Turner and Bobby and those guys kind of adding a more dynamism certainly than what Brook was able to provide, and certainly pace wise, Turner, even though he's not obviously like going to dribble the ball up the floor, he's obviously used to playing in a faster paced team than Brook was. So we'll see. Yeah, but I don't know. Nothing shocking from Doc. And yeah, I mean, again, talk is cheap in July for sure. But we'll see. And I think obviously probably the big thing, I think the main thing I've been hearing people say on Twitter is, kind of the refrain of like, hey, he better play, those KPJ, Gary Trent, AJ lineups. I'm personally fascinated. Like, is there a scenario where he would ever start that group? My guess is not, especially with Kuz and Taurean Prince around. Like, I'm guessing one of those guys starts.
And if I had to pick between the two at this moment, I think I'd still go with Taurean Prince over Kuz at the moment, but we'll see.
I think he's probably I think that's probably a more natural fit, just because of the 3-point shooting is so knocked down. With Kuz, like, again, I think if you're a defense, you're just saying like, Kuz is just as liable to hit a 3 if we're face guarding him or leaving him wide open.
Well, exactly.
So why collapse on him, right? Let's go defend Giannis. So I agree. I think probably a more optimal version of the lineup is with Taurean Prince rather than Kuz out there. Although a lot of people throwing up the stat like that. I forget what, I think it was basically, I don't know if people were using the 5-man lineup of, Porter, Gary, AJ, Giannis, Bobby, or like 4 of those, but they had some like insane, like plus minus stats.
I think it was with the 4.
Yeah, maybe without Bobby or something like that. Yeah. And they had some insane plus minus stats. And I always say, like, just be careful, because if we're going to play the plus minus game, then you're gonna have to also acknowledge that Ajax should never have played. Like, he should have been benched for Ryan Rollins or AJ or Gary Trent a long time earlier. And you're also gonna have to face the uncomfortable truth that the Kuzma, Taurean Prince starting 5 that everybody hated was a plus 13 net rating last year, which just like boggles the mind, because everybody looks at that group as like, like they were like the worst thing in the history of time. So yeah, like, this is the reality when we try to use sort of lineup data to make a case. Like, then you got to kind of realize, like, hey, sometimes it says some things about things you don't like that maybe you might have to accept. So we'll see. But yeah, we still have time, and obviously we still have at least 2 roster spots that need to be filled.
Yeah, and we still have some more Summer League Bucks basketball to watch. We will be back on Monday.
Camille, do we want to talk about the probably Milwaukee comment real quick? Do you Giannis on Speed or Speed's
YouTube stream
commenting basically?
Yeah, me and Justin mentioned it this morning of like, probably Milwaukee.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'll say this. I actually watched most of that stream as long as Giannis was on it later on in the day. 1, I would never want to be as famous as Speed. Absolutely ridiculous how famous he is at the age of 20. But 2, the probably comment took off. I saw ESPN had a lot to say about it today. Not as much to say about Giannis's final words on the stream, which was need to have you in Milwaukee for a game this year. So you know how that goes, Frank.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. And I always, like, with Giannis, it's like, my view is always, if you're thinking that Giannis has never considered leaving or would never leave, or like everybody's crazy to even suggest he would like ever ask out, like, I think you're being naive. But that said, I think it was always likely he was going to stay this summer. And I think when push comes to shove, I think it will be very hard, I think, for Giannis, if the Bucks really struggle this year, whether it's mid-year or by the end of the year, I think it will be very hard for Giannis to ever get to the point of saying he would want to leave, because of loyalty, but also because of comfort. And, again, like the risk of going someplace else, right? Because, like there's a hierarchy, like the best possible thing for you. I think Giannis cares about his legacy, cares about where he fits in the kind of the history of the game. Absolute best thing that could ever happen for him is to win a second championship in Milwaukee. That would immortalize him, probably make him a top 10 all-time guy. The second best thing is he goes someplace else and wins one or more titles, right? But beyond that, like staying in Milwaukee and kind of gutting it out, not winning another championship, maybe you have some competitive seasons. That's a lot better than becoming a mercenary, going to some other place and falling short. And then you're just kind of another guy that,
chase the rings.
And, ultimately, like wherever you go, like as good as he might be, his legacy there is never going to be what it was in Milwaukee. So, these are all like, I'm sure these are things that he thinks about. And, he looks at what somebody like KD is, was his favorite player growing up. Like KD's legacy is a very strange one, right? Like a guy who put up two of the most incredible finals performances, and yet still I think is often perceived as a guy who kind of never had like his own championship, right? Never had really what Giannis has and what Giannis did in Milwaukee. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, the only constant I think is that, like, unfortunately, Giannis is just, at least for the time being, like not going to just let this die. He's a little
bit of a troll. He kind of enjoys the
I mean, so it is what it is. But it's not, let me just say this, like, it ain't just the media, it's Giannis is contributing to why the media is doing this. So it's just he has the right to do that. He's earned it. If it's just keeping pressure on the team, fine. But again, it doesn't make it easier to be a fan. I think we can say that. Certainly doesn't make it easier to be people that, spend hours a week talking about this team, but it is what it is. If that's the price of getting to watch Giannis for the rest of his career, I'll do it. Camille. I'll put up with it
every single time. But yeah, that's the show for today. Like I mentioned, we will be back with more Summer League talk as it continues to roll on for Monday. I know Justin even floated out the idea of maybe doing a little bonus one over the weekend. We'll see how that shakes out, but we'll absolutely be back on Monday at the very least. So thank you for making Locked On Bucks your first listen today. For your second listen, find the Locked On NBA podcast where there is no offseason. Doug, Matt, and Hayes, they keep you up to date on contract negotiations, rumors, and everything you need to be the most informed NBA fan. Find Locked On NBA on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We truly do appreciate you for tuning in. For Frank and myself, we'll catch you later. Enjoy your weekend.